Hi everyone, welcome to another video from Rich's Tech Tutorials. Today we're going to be looking at setting up a Windows 11 desktop machine as an RPA, so it's Robotic Process Automation system. So we're going to run through the creating an account, installing the software, and then going into ServiceNow and getting it set up as a bot that we can use for our workflows that we're going to do. Over the next couple of episodes we're going to go through building a bot and how to then build a workflow and an application around that bot to make that bot do something. So first of all, we need to get started with setting up a Windows 11 machine to run the RPA software that we need to. And the first thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to create an account. So this needs to be a non-Microsoft account, so just as a local account to the machine. So what we do, we go into system settings, and then accounts, and what we're going to do is then scroll down to other users, and we're going to add an account. Now what you're going to get this coming up and saying, what we say is, I don't have the person's sign-in details. This is then going to allow us to create a local account. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put in the account details that we're going to use with the bot so that it can log into the machine and run through all of the processes. So I'm going to call this RPA Robot. And I'm going to give it a password. And re-entered the password. So we've done all of that. So we've now created our bot. We've called it RPA bot. Now what we need to do is we now need to log in. Well, let's first of all, let's set that bot up to be a, change the account type. Let's make it an administrator. Just makes it easier for when we want to set up all of the software. So the next step we need to do is we need to now log in as that account. Welcome back. We've now logged in as our RPA robot user. So the first thing we're going to do is we're now going to log on. We need to start up Chrome. Now the assumption here is that you've had the RPA robots installed already in the system. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down to, type in downloads. And under the RPA Robot Process Administration and Downloads, we then get the information we need for downloading the bots. Now, we're going to install both the RPA Desktop Design Studio as well as the Unattended Bot and the Login Agent. Excellent, we've downloaded those. So if we now go to our download section, first of all, I'm going to install the Unattended Bot login. So that's all installed. The only other thing I would suggest you install is a Java virtual machine. So the next step of what we need to do is we're now going to set up the bot inside ServiceNow. Okay, so the first step is we need to create a user account within ServiceNow. Now if you're not an administrator of your system, please get somebody else to do this for you. But if we go to user administration and users, we're now going to create a new bot. So we want a new login, and I'm going to call this RPA Robot. I already have a few RPA robots, so I'll give it a name, RPA and Robot. And yeah, we can give it an email address if we so wish, but I just set this to local, and we're going to save that. Now the roles we need to add to this, we need to add an RPA role in, so we're going to go in for SN_RPA, and you'll see a number of them come up, and the one that we want is the, the robot. So SN_RPA FDN.RPA robot, put that in, hit save. Now we will need to set a password, so let's set the password as well. The password that I've got, I'm going to save that, close that. I'm going to also untick that it needs to be reset, just update that. What we now need to do is to go into the RPA Hub and actually set up the machine. Now there's two steps to this. So what we're going to do is, first of all, if we go into RPA Hub, RPA Hub, as you can see there, we've got RPA Hub. Now it's loading up my RPA Hub. I've got a couple of bots already in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the list view. and we're going to create robots. So I'm going to create a new robot, so we click new and give this robot a name. So this will be a new unattended. Oh no, let's give it a name. So it'll be Windows 11 new unattended bot. It's an unattended bot. Now the machine name, what we need to do is we come back to our machine here and we run a command prompt. And if we type in who am I, what you see is the machine name is what we have here. Now, if you've got a particularly long machine name, it will get truncated, but it's that truncated name that you see here is what we need. So we're going to copy that and put that in here. We don't need to put in the department, work notes or anything like that. It's unattended and we hit save. That has now created our new bot. So the next step is we're now going to go back to our machine and we're going to set up the actual bot so that it logs in and then creates that link between the unattended bot agent and the ServiceNow system. So we're going to do that next. So let's minimize that. We don't need that open anymore. So what we're going to do first, we need to run the unattended bot. So we're going to click, so our hub is our system obviously. So in my case, this is my system, so servicenow.com. In this case, we're using basic authentication. If you set up all the TLS certificates, you wouldn't have needed to go through the creating of the user accounts, but we haven't done that here. So we called this RPA Robot 4. I'll just double check that in the system. RPA underscore Robot 4. There we go. So I nearly got that wrong. So RPA underscore Robot 4, and then we put in the password and then we click connect. That is now connected. So our bot is now connected to the ServiceNow system. So what we now need to do is we're now going to go into our Design Studio, and the first thing we need to do is we need to set it up so that it was going to talk to our ServiceNow instance. So put in the URL, and we want to mark that as default and launch. I'll just make sure I set that up correctly, and we do. Okay, all of the components have now loaded and we're waiting just for the application to start. And so it's just asking if it can open up the host. It can. So that's going to allow it to log in. That's done. So if we just get rid of that browser, we don't need that now. So we're now logged into our RPA Design Studio where we can start to create a new bot. Now in this example, what we're going to do is we're going to create a very simple command line bot. And what it's going to do is we're going to pass in from ServiceNow a command that we want to execute on this particular machine. In later bots, we're going to go through how to build like web pages, log into other systems and do other things that we need to do. But for this simple example, we're just going to connect ServiceNow, the bot, get the bot to run and all of that. So we're going to use command line because that's a nice simple example. So first thing we do is we're going to create an unattended bot and we're going to call it command line, and it's going to be our command line robot. Yeah, we're going to stick it in our users RPA bot desktop. That's fine. Well, actually, let's create a folder, shall we? So in documents, I'll create a new folder and I'm going to call this bots. Okay, we want that one because I want to put them inside this particular bots folder. And say OK. Just waiting for the components to load. Great. So what we're presented with here is our desktop design studio. Now I'm going to run you through the various different aspects of the bot, but what we're going to do to start with is just get our bot running. And what we're going to do is I'll just walk through the stuff that you can see here. So over on the left hand side we have our toolbox. Now our toolbox contains all of the different things that these bots can do. So we've got our decisions, our connectors, things for RPA Hub. We'll come back to that later, and that's how we're going to connect the bot and ServiceNow together so we can pass information to the bot. Over on the right hand side we have our Project Explorer. We will go through various aspects of that as we go through, any properties, but the main window that you see here has a start and an end. Now the simplest bot we could create would literally be one that started and ended. So we drag a line between the two to make a connection. Obviously we want to do something a little bit more than that, so we're going to remove that connection for now. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a simple robot that just literally opens a command prompt and sends some commands to that command prompt. So what we're going to do first is we're going to put in the connector that's going to allow us to open up a command line, a command prompt. So to do that we need in connectors, we have this thing called the Universal App Connector. I'll get my words out. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag that over to our global objects and drop that in there. There we go, that's been dropped in. Now if we double click on that we see the methods that are available. Now what we're going to do is we're going to bring in the start method. Now you'll see various different elements of the start method. Now what we're going to do is we're going to connect, so when this main piece starts it's going to run the universal application connector, and then we're going to simply end. Right, so what we need to do is we need to add a path. So that's the path of where the application is that we want to execute. Now I can double click that and put in the string value, or I can bring in a variable and connect it. We'll talk about that a bit later on. So let's go and find the command line application. So we put in command, and we can see if we say open file location. Now notice this is the actual link to the application, it's not the actual application itself. So if we bring up the properties of this, we will see it's at Win Directory System32 command. Now we can't just paste that in this case, so what we need to do is we need to go and find that application. So if you remember correctly, it said it was on the C drive, it was going to be in our Windows, and just type it up here, it's pretty quicker. System, oh, keyboard layout's wrong. System32, and we then had, it was cmd.exe. So there we go, we can see it is showing up. So if we want to grab that, let's minimize that and put that into our path. So let's paste that in. So see Windows System32 command .exe. But what we also need to do is specify the application type. This is just to help the connector know what it's doing. So we double click that and we can specify whether it's Edge, Chrome, Edge, or an application. In this case it's an application, so we hit OK. So we're not going to pass any start parameters, we just literally want to execute the universal application. And if we run that, so it started up our command line prompt, which is great, and the program's finished. So it's great that we started up the application, but we've got a few more steps to do inside the desktop design studio that we need to do. So we're going to leave that open for a second. What we now need to come back is come over to our, let me just expand that slightly for you to see, the universal application, and what we now need to do is we need to configure it. So what we're going to do now is we now need to tell it about the elements of the application. Now for this it's quite simple because it's just our command line, but if we were going through and training the bot to look for different screens, this is where we come and do this. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull down a list of the applications that are running, so we can see Chrome is running, we can see our command prompt is running as well. So we're going to add screen. Now we've only got the one screen, so we're going to select that, and we'll leave those, and we can say done. Now what that's going to show for us here is we've got our new command line application. So if we double click that command line application, we'll see we have a number of different things, different methods that we can pick from. So the first one we want to put in is going to wait for it to create. Now this is useful if we've got an application that takes a little while to start up, so we can wait for the screen to create. It shouldn't take 30 seconds in this case, so we're going to put that in there first. We're just going to wait for it to start. Let's say we're going to give it 5 seconds to start up. It could be a really slow system. So that's the first thing we're going to do. The next thing we need to do is, obviously once we've waited for that to start, we're then going to go through and actually send some keys. So you will notice over on the left hand side here we've got get focus, focus. So if we want to make sure that the screen is focused that we're going to send the keys to, we can do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to send keys. Now you'll notice what I'm doing here is these grey arrows that you see across, this is how the order in which these steps are going to run. These yellow ones are when we use for joining data points together. So if we've got if statements and such like, we use those in here. Now we're going to get it to run an application, but then what would also be really good for us to do is to close down the application at the end. So we're always in a known state. So if we come and bring close across, and we're going to then say once we've sent those keys, we're going to close. Now you'll notice very quickly when we do this, I just need to put in, we want dir. We're literally going to send that through. Now I'm going to pass in, no, just say, let's say dir. So we're going to send in dir. So we're literally going to start, open the application, wait for it to start, send that, and then close it down again. Now if we run this, and that happened very quickly, so we didn't actually see anything occur. And what you did see, hopefully, was it typing in the dir. But what we're going to do is we're going to also put in a little extra thing. So we're going to say wait. No, not that one. We're going to go back to the toolbox and put in wait. So we can wait for a period of time. So we're going to put that here. And we're going to change the path in which these run. So we're going to say wait for 30 seconds and then close, but we don't want to wait for 30 seconds, it seems a bit long. 15 seconds. So we'll just tidy up our thing here. So we put in our dir and we're going to now run this application and we're going to see what happens. So let's hit run. So it types dir but it doesn't do anything. Okay, why is that? Well, if we just wait for the application to finish, let's go back to our application, we can stop that. Let's kill this. We need to actually specify a little bit more. So what we can do is we right click and go port properties. That brings up the information. Now you'll see we've got this box. Now what I need to do is put a carriage return in. Now if I try and do that directly here, for example, if I put, it just doesn't let me do it. So what we do is port properties, dir, execute, command return. So now if we run this, what we'll see is going to happen, dir, there we go. So we've just got to remember to make sure we send every single key that we need as part of the send keys that we're going to do. So let's just stop that application there. All great. So that's the first part in our bot. In the next episode, we're going to go through how we connect this bot, publish it to ServiceNow, how we're going to pass some data through to it. Okay, I hope that's been useful. Please come back for the next episode where we actually go through the piece of actually making this useful. Thanks very much.